Hi friends, this is Angelica. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making Christmas cards. I'm going to be using products from the Greetery, and I'm going to be really focusing on a few new products from the new Christmas collection that is now in the Greetery shop. Now this is going to be a longer video since we're going to be making 8 Christmas cards, so grab something to drink, get cozy, and let's start by taking a look at some of the products that we're going to be using. First up is the Jumbo Curiosity Ornaments. These 4 ornaments are sold separately, and each one comes with accessory dies to decorate the ornaments with. Next up is the Christmas Pudding die, and we're going to be using the bow from this die set to top the ornaments with. And then last up is the Twinkle Background Die. I absolutely love this die. It makes gorgeous backgrounds and coordinates perfectly with the vintage ornaments. So we're going to start with putting together the ornaments. I did die cut Nina Solar White 110-pound cardstock with the ornament dies, and I have a variety of distress oxide inks to color them with. We're going to be doing these 4 so you can see how each ornament comes together, and then I made a lot more off screen. I'm going to be using masking tape to tape off areas of the ornaments so I can make them several colors. And I'm going to keep the ink heavier on the edges so they have a glow to them. I started with the round and bell ornaments, and now I am working on the Spire ornament, and the next one's going to be the Teardrop ornament. I do have the decorating die cuts next to each ornament, which I die cut from glitter paper. I'm using Uncharted Mariner Oxide ink on the Teardrop ornament. And I had no clue that this color existed. I was picking up some supplies in an online shop a couple weeks ago, and this popped up as a recommended item. And yes, it immediately went into my cart. I love this color. It might be my new favorite color. You'll definitely be seeing me using it a lot in future projects. So I'm almost finished with the ornaments. I'm getting the glitter pieces glued on, and since these pieces are so small, I'm using my reverse tweezers to add my glue, and I'm using Art glitter glue, which is my glue of choice. It's a thin glue and dries really quickly, and because it's so thin, I keep it in a needlepoint bottle to control how much I apply to the paper. And one more thing, the gold paper that I'm using is from the Stamp Market, and this gold paper is super sparkly. I love it. Okay, that finishes up the ornaments, so let's move on to the backgrounds. I'm going to do one background on screen so you can see how I put it together. I die cut white cardstock, and I'm using a paper piercer to poke out all of the small pieces. This does take a couple minutes, but I'm telling you, it's well worth the time. These backgrounds are gorgeous. Once I finish poking out all the paper, I'm going to glue it to colored cardstock. I'm going to be using the Stamp Market blush cardstock for this panel, and I picked a different glue to use since the art glitter glue dries so fast. I won't have enough time to apply it to the whole panel, so I'm going to use a glue pen, and there's several companies that carry this kind of a glue pen. I picked Gina K Connect to use, so I used kind of a light hand, put it all over the panel, and now I will apply it to the blush cardstock, and I'm going to give it nice pressure to make sure it's really securely down on the cardstock, and then I'm going to put it under something heavy. I think I used my Misty to, I put it under my Misty so it would dry flat. The last thing that we're going to do before we start assembling the cards is prep the card bases. So I'm going to use an inside greeting from the Christmas Sentiment Suite stamp set, and I'm going to line that up straight with my Misty L-shaped ruler. And to make sure that I have the sentiment straight, I am going to stamp it onto the grid paper before stamping it on the card bases. So there's several themes in the Sentiment Suite series, like there's love, birthdays, thank you, thinking of you, and each set comes with 2 inside sentiments. So I do stamp the inside of my cards a lot with the inside sentiments from these stamp sets. Once these card bases are stamped, we're going to jump right into assembling the cards. So we are going to start with the Abundant Joy die. I die cut white cardstock and some more of the Stamp Market gold glitter cardstock. I'm going to use the J and the Y, and I'm going to substitute the O with a bell ornament. I've already made a white on white twinkle background and I attached it to a card base. Now I'm going to attach the bell ornament with thin foam squares, and I'll glue the letters down, and then I'll glue a Christmas pudding bow to the ornament. I did use Concord and Ninth peacock cardstock for the bow, and I used my reverse tweezers to hold the bow in place onto the top of the ornament while the glue dried. And that's going to finish our first card. I love how clean and simple this card turned out. I did make a second card using the same layout, this time with silver glitter paper and a pink bell ornament. For the next card, I'm going to be using the new Arched Holiday Sentiment stamp set and the coordinating dies. The stamp set does come with a stamping guide to show how the arches and large words work together. Since the dies are intricate, it's easiest for me to die cut first and then stamp. Now, I learned this trick from Betsy a few years ago, and this is how I do most of my stamping now. I have a sticky mat in my MISTI to hold the negative panel in place, and I'll put the die cut back into its spot and line up the stamp. I picked Wild Honey to stamp with. I also used Wild Honey on the ornaments along with aged patina oxide ink. I just love how these two colors work together. I've never used these two colors before together and just love the outcome. The Twinkle background is Concord and Ninth peacock cardstock glued onto Aqua Sky cardstock. I backed the ornaments with thin foam squares, and then I did a quick layout to see where I wanted all the pieces to be. I did glue the sentiment onto another die cut for a little bit of dimension. And then to put the card together, I used the lines on the Twinkle background to help me make sure that the ornaments went on straight. And I used glue to attach the sentiment. And then to finish the card, each ornament got a cute little white bow. I just love how bold this card turned out. This color combination is so non-traditional, but they totally work together, and I'm really glad I stepped out of my comfort zone and used them. For our next card, I'm going to use the blush and white twinkle background that I made at the beginning of the video, and I'm going to die cut it. I'm going to die cut an arch window using a die from the A2 Arches die set. So I picked a die big enough to hold a round ornament, and for this ornament, I inked it with Wild Honey and Saltwater Taffy inks. I'm going to tape the die down and then run it through my die cut machine to die cut the window. Once I die cut the window, I'm going to use an A2 Arches Stencil to add some color to the inside of the window. So this is a 7-piece stencil set that coordinates with the Arches die set, and each stencil comes with a mask. So I picked the size that I needed, and I used my detail scissors to snip the mask out. I put the stencil under the card front using the guidelines on the stencil to line it up correctly with the die cut window. And then I picked Tailored Expressions pineapple ink to blend over the stencil. Now this can be a pretty bright yellow, so I made sure to use a light hand to keep the background color really soft. And once I finished, I attached the card front and the ornament to the card base. And then for the sentiment, I picked another one from the Arched Holiday stamp set, and I inked it with Saltwater Taffy. I attached the sentiment onto the round ornament with thin foam squares, and I topped the ornament with a pink bow to finish this card. I didn't want the arch that I die cut from the last panel to go to waste, so I decided to make a card using it. Now, I put it on a pink background, but it was too pink, so I decided to die cut a vellum arch to try to break up the pink, and that didn't look right either, so I decided to stamp the pink cardstock with a background. I picked the new pine and berry background to use, and the cardstock is cheeky, cardstock by the Stamp Market, so I use the coordinating ink to stamp with, so it would be a tone-on-tone background. I stamped the grid paper first so I can see where to position my panel at in the MISTI, and then I stamped the panel and made sure I had a really good impression by using a stamp pressing tool that was gifted to me by my dear friend Anne. Now I have a really pretty pink background to put the arch on top of, and I just love the tone on tone. It's not too distracting. It just gives just a perfect touch to the card. To finish the card, I added the Spire ornament and Joy Arch sentiment with foam squares. The Spire ornament was inked with saltwater taffy and wild honey oxide inks, and then I topped the ornament with a pink bow. And now I have a second pink Christmas card done. So pink is not a color that most people use for Christmas cards, but I love it. Pink's my favorite color, and I think it looks great with the wild honey yellow ink. The next two cards do have the traditional Christmas red in them. So I started with black cardstock, which I die cut with a twinkle background, and I glued it to gold cardstock, gold glitter cardstock. And then I die cut an arched window. I'm again going to ink a background onto a card base that fits inside the window. I'm going to use pineapple Tailored Expressions pineapple ink again, and this is going to give a nice little bed for the red spire ornament that I made to sit on. I really like how the Joy Arch sentiment looks when it's on top of the spire ornament, so I did stamp another one using candied apple oxide ink, and I'm going to glue it right onto that glitter middle of the ornament. So I am using Ranger Multimedia Matte, which is a really strong adhesive, and it's going to sit nicely. It's going to grip that glitter paper nicely. I don't have to worry about it coming off of the ornament. And I did back the sentiment with another die cut just to make it a little bit stronger, since the swirly parts of the sentiment is going to be off of the ornament. I'm going to set an acrylic block on top of the sentiment until the glue dries, and then I'm going to finish the card with a really pretty red bow. And then I did not want that black arch to go to waste, so I'm going to use it on the next card, and I made a really cute red bell ornament to sit on top of the black arch. I decided for the panel for this next card, I wanted the black arch to be under the card panel, so I picked a smaller arch die to die cut a window into the card panel, and I left a little room at the bottom of the arch for a sentiment. Now all of the sentiments in the arched sentiment stamp set they're longer, they're not wide, so I pulled out the Opposites Attract holiday stamp set, and I'm going to pick 2 stamps from this stamp set to make a longer sentiment to sit under the window. So I am going to stamp Christmas with coordinating red ink. I'm using Pink Fresh Studio Passion Fruit ink, and I'm just going to stamp it one time with this ink. I do give it a couple minutes for the ink to fully dry. Once it dries, it spreads out, and it's a really pretty even red color. And to finish the sentiment, I'm going to pick one of the smaller script sentiments to stamp over Christmas. I have it under Christmas, but a little of the end, the front and the end is over Christmas. It's just really pretty how it turns out. So I picked Greetings. So it says Christmas Greetings, and I stamped it with VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. And I absolutely adore these 2 fonts next to each other. I think out of all the cards I made, this one is actually my favorite one. So to make the panel sit up just a little bit on top of the card front, I am going to add a few strips of foam adhesive. And then I added the bell with thin foam squares. And I love how clean and simple this card turned out. The red bow just gives the perfect touch to this card. I still had 2 round ornaments left over, so I decided to make one last card to put them on. I did pretty much the same thing as I've done with the other window cards. I die cut a large arched window on a pink and white twinkle background, and then I stenciled a blue background for the ornaments to sit on. I attached the ornaments to the card with foam squares, and then I used pine needle oxide ink to stamp an arch sentiment, and then I added it to one of the round ornaments with thin foam squares. And then to finish the card, I added 2 pink bows. This card is actually my husband's favorite card out of all 8. Of course, I love them all. But like I said before, the Christmas greeting card, I just love how it turned out. That black background and the red bow, I mean, just lovely. And then pink Christmas cards, who knew? Like I said before, pink is my favorite color. I've just never used it so much on Christmas cards. So I'm actually glad that I used a few new color combinations. It's always great to step out of your comfort zone and try something new. Now, I would love to know which one is your favorite, so feel free to leave a comment down below. I'm really curious on what you think. That's all that I have for today. I hope I was able to pass on ideas on how to use these products together. I will have links down below to my blog and to the products that I used. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. I know this was a longer video. I just had so much I wanted to share. So I truly appreciate your support. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more. I'm going to be back shortly with another video. So I'll see you then. Bye.